show a bit of music that I recorded last night at the local workers club, and then I'm going to just piggyback DK's stream and we'll watch what he's watching. So I'll start off with a bit of music, if I can find the right button again. I think it was that one. Yep, that's the one. I was down at the workers club last night and there was a band playing. Fortunately, I can't remember their name. That's a sin, isn't it? DK's channel up and working. Alright, a bit of sound.
Of locusts, who also class as chimera. Revelation 9 reads, "And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle, and on their heads were as it were crowns like gold, and their faces were as the faces of men, and they had hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions. And they had breastplates, as it were breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. And they had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men 5 months. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon. These verses branch into various subjects, some of which have been previously discussed on this channel in reference to the identity and relation of stars. The bottomless pit, its location, its opening, the Organization for Nuclear Research, CERN, and the identity of Apollyon are best saved for a separate video. For now, we remain on the subject of Chimera. The described locusts climbed out of the pit, whose smoke had darkened the sun. The origin of what has emerged out of the pit is the abyss, a place deep below the earth reserved for the most severe of punishments. The abyss is not only dark due to the lack of light, but also its condition is due to the type of fire that torments its prisoners. The hottest flame is a black flame, and so the light used to punish the wicked is darkness, a type of light that Jesus himself warned about. Jesus said, "The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. But if thine eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is that darkness?" This darkness relates to the subject of antimatter, and therefore CERN. As stated, that is best saved for a separate video. But for now, I'll leave you with this. There is an eye for darkness and an eye for light. The devil, Satan, is said to appear as an angel of light. Yet, he is a false light, a different light, a darkness. So, when celebrities, politicians, and propped-up people of the world show their allegiance with the obscuring of the eye, are they showing allegiance to the true light of the world, Jesus Christ, or the enemy, who has his own light, his own eye? Jumping ahead to Revelation chapter 13, the appearance of the beast, empowered by the dragon, certainly fits the Chimera criteria. It reads, "And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon which gave power unto the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him?" Again, the red verses branch out into various topics worthy of their own allotted time and video. To briefly summarize the elements which are not the prime focus, the beast has been healed, and the miracle has captivated the people, causing them to worship the beast and its power. A false miracle, a planned deception, has bound the onlookers, and yet even without the miracle, it appears that the people were not afraid or troubled by the beast's visage. This chimera, an amalgamation of multiple animals, is an appearance that the people who are against Christ seem to venerate and hold in high regard. This is parallel to ancient times of the pre- and post-flood world, as the appearance and existence of these creatures in the end days. What was, will be again. The mixing of flesh is seen as an advancement, a necessity for progression, and not for what it truly is, a perversion of God's creation. The question is then raised, in our modern day and soon-to-be future, what spirit is possessing these creatures created from mixed flesh? Are they from the Lord, or are they from those who perished in the flood, guiding man's hand to create a suitable body to which matches their former physique, and therefore their animalistic spirit can dwell within? To further my point, I again refer to the work of Rob Skiba. To ensure full understanding, additional context has been provided, in which Rob discusses the difference between the first generation of Nephilim of the days of Jared and the genetic manipulation so that the Nephilim could return during the days of Noah.
You've seen the movie The Clash of the Titans? I believe that's where it all goes back to. I believe it goes back to that story right there. But 1,200 years before the flood is the days of Jared. Okay, days of 3550 BC, about 1,200 years before the flood. That's when they arrive. They get busy pretty quick. They start mating with women. They have children. 500 years they're allowed to live and kill each other off. Then the Watchers, who gave birth to these children, or who mated with women who gave birth to these children, were judged, bound, and buried for 70 generations. And then eventually Enoch is raptured, sometime shortly thereafter. Well, that's 700 years before the flood. All that's over and done with, 700 years before the flood. So that begs the question, what happened? Why did God get so upset within those 700 years? I believe that's the after this time frame that we're talking about here. And as I was looking at this scenario right here, I happened to read this quote in Dr. Judd Burton's book before I met him. He said, "Despite the loss of their physical bodies, there is reason to believe that the giants' spirits continued to exist. In this state, they were and are demonic entities. Like other sentient creatures, they have an eternal spirit at their essence. Therefore, the Nephilim and related tribes of giants never really ceased to exist. Only their physicality was lost." And I agree with that 100%. The book of Enoch tells you point blank that the demons or the wandering or the evil spirits were the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim that were killed. So when you have the Clash of the Titans, those first generation Nephilim, however many there were, when they were killed off in the Civil War, their spirits went out and became wandering spirits. They lost their physicality. They're looking for bodies again. So what happened next? I believe they started this process of the genetic manipulation that we read about in Joshua 4:18 and Jubilee 7:24. They started to create host bodies for their spirits to go into. We learned from Paul that there's one flesh for birds, one for animal, one for humans. You read that quote, I think it's in 1st or 2nd Corinthians, where he's talking about that. When Genesis talks about God breathed into Adam's nostrils and he became a living soul, the Hebrew word there is nephesh. It's the same word used for the living creatures when he's making the animals. It is my opinion that God has a God-prescribed nephesh for a bird, for a dog, for a cat, for lizards, fish, and humans. So if that's the case, if that's true, what happens when you blend, let's say, a human with a goat? There's no God-prescribed nephesh for a human goat, for a satyr. So in my opinion, what you end up with is you've created a host body that is fit for a disembodied spirit to go ahead and get into. And those animal-human chimera may have been similar in characteristics to their fathers. Like reproduces after like, right? Judd talked about Azazel. Azazel is traditionally associated with the goat. So it is my opinion that the satyrs were later representation or manifestations of host bodies for the like spirit of the Azazel human Nephilim. Once they were killed off, that goat-like demonic spirit would find a host body that would be appropriate for it. Does that make sense? Okay. I've got dinosaurs down there, T-Rex and whatnot. It is my opinion that the herbivore-class dinosaurs were probably created by God, but perhaps the Velociraptor T-Rex type characters may have been part of that genetic manipulation of existing lizards to create creatures that had only evil continual and violence, and that's not a very pleasant creature right there. You see Jurassic Park? When they first get there and they see the Apatosauruses and stuff out there, wow, that's wonderful, that's beautiful. Then all of a sudden, T-Rex comes through and the Velociraptors. Well, we see in the text that there was violence, terrible violence. So it's my opinion that genetic manipulation took place of lizards there, and that all of this took place in the last 120 years leading up to the flood, which is what I believe Genesis 6:3 is really referring to. Genesis 6:3, I think, is overlooked a lot of times, where it says that my spirit will no longer dwell with man, for he's flesh, and his days should be 120 years. Well, he's flesh since Adam. So what's he talking about there? I believe that he created our bodies as a temple for who? The Holy Spirit, right? He created us in his image and likeness. We are in the image and likeness of God. We are, if I can use this term, a host body, right, for his Spirit to indwell, right? We are the temple of the Holy Ghost. Well, if you corrupt this temple, God says, I ain't going to hang out with you. If you start genetically manipulating your body such that you corrupt the temple that's in my likeness, I'm not going to hang out with you anymore. I believe Genesis 6:3 is the warning. He's sending up a flare saying, hey, all this genetic manipulation you guys are doing, you better knock it off, because if you keep it up, I'm not going to be able to dwell with you anymore. And I think the transhumanism that we see today is nothing new under the sun. What has been done will be done again. I think that's what we're seeing take place. And I believe it was taking place in the latter 120 years leading up to the flood.
As has been stressed multiple times throughout this video, each topic is a branch of subjects which all deserve their allotted time. This video's intent is to get you to realize the reality of the world we live in, what is going on, and what is soon to happen, both according to the Bible and the so-called scientific advancements of man. In order for people to accept the world and its wants, the normalization of these subjects and future events has to be embedded into the public's consciousness. This leads me to discuss the phenomenon of predictive programming. Predictive programming is a concept that suggests elements of popular culture, including movies, television shows, books, and other forms of media, are deliberately used to plant seeds or prepare the public for future events or societal changes. Proponents of predictive programming argue that influential individuals or organizations use mass media as a tool to introduce concepts, scenarios, or ideologies into the public consciousness gradually. By presenting these ideas in a fictional context, they can be normalized or desensitized to audiences over time. Predictive programming often involves the repetition and reinforcement of specific themes, symbols, or narratives across different forms of media. By repeatedly exposing audiences to certain motifs or scenarios, they become familiarized with them and may be more accepting or receptive when similar events occur in real life. With this knowledge, the phenomenon of genetic engineering certainly fits this predictive criteria. Films, television, and written media have pushed superheroes have become ingrained in popular culture, transcending their origins in comic books to become iconic figures in mainstream media. This widespread popularity has been fueled by successful film franchises, television series, and merchandise, which have introduced superheroes to new generations of fans and cemented their status as cultural icons. Through this exposure, children and even adults come to idolize a form of physique and power that is beyond the capabilities of the ordinary human. An overwhelming majority of heroes have these abilities solely due to genetic engineering, whether they were bitten by a spider or fell into a vat of questionable liquid. The unexpected circumstances gave rise to desired results. Some superheroes have more of an animalistic form and physique with abilities to match, while others look like your ordinary human. Both have an effect on the receiving audience, as both categories stem from the same source, genetic engineering. However, it's not just the powers that make these heroes so beloved, it is their selfless acts. As individuals or a group, they must save a town, nation, or as has been increasingly depicted over the last decade, the Earth. This threat, parallel to Revelation, is often depicted emerging from portals or pits, leading the people to instead seek the hybrid human heroes, some of which have a chimera physique, to save them and their world over the creator of all things and the savior of man, Jesus Christ. You, likewise, as the receiving audience, will consciously or subconsciously see that the protection of this world from either friend or foe is to become more than human or look towards those that already are. In conclusion, the normalization of genetic advancements proposed under the banner of saving lives, protecting against illnesses, sustaining food sources, and enhancing military personnel, will persist through all forms of media until the question of ethics is completely removed due to a wanting and willing society. The world that we will become is the world that once was during the days of Noah. Do not be ignorant to the advancements of this science. Man is being mixed with beast, and that image is who the world admires. Yet, we are not of this world. The one whose blood was shed came in the image of man, and man alone. Salvation is not for beast, but brethren. Accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Saviour. Come out of the darkness and into the light.
It's getting a bit gaudy, folks.
Of this video, the aim is to get you interested in the works of the Bible. If your interest has been piqued, then please read the original text yourself. If you have additional commentary on the events discussed within this video, then please leave a comment. I look forward to reading them. Additionally, if you have a different topic that you would like to see me tackle, then again, please leave a comment. If you wish to support the work I do here on this channel, please see my Patreon. You will be given exclusive access to additional content. On that note, thank you to my patrons and channel members. I am blessed to have your support. If you enjoyed, please remember to like and subscribe, as it helps the channel immensely. God bless, and goodbye.
Come on.
Right. One.
I think. Yeah, let's just stop that. I'm trying to play a song, folks. It'll work in a minute. Maybe it won't. Just got a bit gaudy, that bit. Yeah. Had a few glitching problems today. Yeah. Let's just go back to that. Maybe. That's
Sexual magnetism. White House that had the same sort of mysterious doings going on around it for the longest time, and nobody ever said a word about it. So take it away, Norm.
Okay, I'd like to talk about Ottawa, the Parliament buildings on Parliament Hill, and also about this park. And it's supposed to be a children's park, but it's very demonic. And right, there's a plaque on it that says it was designed by the same person that designed the Chucky doll things for the horror movies. You remember Chucky?
Yeah, and that is such a pleasant design, isn't it?
Yeah, well, they let him do a whole park on the Rideau River. There are two rivers that go through Ottawa, and it's right next to the Russian embassy. And I've got a lot of pictures of it. And Parliament is 3 buildings on Parliament Hill, right in Ottawa, and they're built on top of a cliff. So there's a cliff that goes straight down to the Ottawa River, and there are 3 buildings. There's the East Block, the West Block, and the Center Block. And the East Block and the Center Block are covered in carvings of demons. This is our Parliament, our government. The buildings are covered in demons. And I was talking to some stonemasons that work there, and they said that the West Block building has no demons on it, and it's far older than the other 2. So I'm not sure if it's a Tartarian building or not, the West Block, but Ottawa itself is full St. Lawrence River. And after the War of 1812, where we invaded the United States and burned Washington down, we thought, we'd better make sure that our government is further away from the American border, because Kingston's right on the river, right on the border. So Ottawa is a couple of hours north and east of Kingston, and I think Ottawa was already built before the government was moved here. So I'd like to share some pictures of the Parliament buildings, if I may.
Yeah, and while you're setting that up, Norm, is Ottawa an Indian name or a native?
It is. It's a native name, and Ottawa was stolen from the Algonquin tribe, and they've never.
Right, let's try that again. Oh dear me. Once again, stop recording. Or I pressed the wrong button again.
Tower. And if you look on the sides,
Hopper, and I would be real interested to know what else was in that roof. Are those, what are those, lizards or lions or something?
no, they're lizards. There are more.
What's going along the sides there? It almost looks like a crescent or shape or something, and then of course you got the zigzag.
Yeah, well, I've got a funny story. In the 1970s, a guy hid in that clock. Like there's a room behind the clock face.
Really?
And yeah, and he hid.
So I'll chuck a different video in with the
there overnight.
One of my walks.
And in the morning, because the flag comes. Ottawa woke up to see
the national anthem of America, right?
Yeah, well, that was like 10,000 people sang the rest of the national anthem without even skipping a beat, and then they cheered.
In the world.
No, and it's doubtful that many Americans would know "O Canada," our anthem.
Exactly. So it goes to the spirit. Terms.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, go ahead, Norm. It is.
Okay. Hey, take a look at those demons coming down. See them?
Yeah, and the one on the left has almost a crocodile back to it.
Okay, so I can zoom in here.
Yeah, and move around it.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the It's quite spooky because, let's see here.
Yeah, it's breaking up a bit, folks. Yes. Probably trying to do too much at once.
When the European Union.
That's on our parliament. That's where our government, that building is where our government operates out of. Look at that.
Looks like he's got a squeeze box.
Well, he does, yeah.
Wow. Tongue hanging out on that, too.
Look at this one.
It's ugly.
On purpose. Actually, I learned something from the stonemasons. They said, if one of these things has like water, rainwater flowing through it, it's a gargoyle. And if it doesn't, it's called a grotesque.
Oh, well, that makes sense. What's the point of it, though?
To instill fear.
To ward off the enemies of the people who work inside doing what they're not supposed to be doing, I guess.
Yeah. This one here is interesting.
Doing it again, folks.
Call him the Green Man, and it's because he has control of the earth.
It's also the name of a tree that they would do human sacrifices at.
Well,
so if you look at this face, it's got branches over it.
Yeah. Well, whenever the Green Man is depicted, it seems, or that I've seen it, it's got leaves and things all over it.
There it is. And there are 5 of them on the East Block. And that's the one that has the lizards crawling down the sides.
Yeah. Notre Dame has, and I mean, it's a church or a cathedral or whatever. It's got these things that are just monstrous looking.
Yeah. And I don't know what these are. They look like some weird kind of helmet.
Wow. Well, you can bet it has significance.
Can you see that?
It looks like 3 or 4 helmets around something else. And the helmets look like they don't, it's almost like the helmet for Predator or something.
Yeah. Once again, that's on our center block of the Parliament.
Yeah, there's a lot of alien references that are never talked about.
Yeah.
And even all the babies in the Renaissance artwork, all the babies up in the sky and around everywhere suddenly now has a more sinister meaning to me.
Look at this friendly guy.
Oh, nice. Wow. It also looks like a chimera or a, hybrid.
And it's got horns, but it looks like snakes coming out of its forehead.
Well, also it's got like a fishtail or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And teeth. And a pig nose.
Yeah.
And an octopus thing. It almost looks like it could be an octopus thing coming out of his head or a ram's horn or something.
And this is our Parliament buildings.
Well, I think that if any people go into their cities, they're going to find stuff like this.
Now, this is the East Block again, and this is the side that faces towards the Rideau Canal. And as I said, it's built on a cliff. And if you go around the building on the west side of the East Block, the windows have no bars. But on the east side of the east block, as you can see, the windows have bars. And the masons told me, the stonemasons told me, that they had raised the land 9 feet. And I said, why would you do that? It's built on a cliff. And they said, oh, for drainage. Well, what we think is when you go and look over the cliff, there is a stairway about 10 feet out. It leads nowhere. It ends nowhere. It's just a stairway. And we think there was human trafficking done through this building, and that they would bring the people up from the canal and then take them into this building, and they were behind bars. And there's also a courtyard in there that you could take a horse and carriage into, and no one would see what was going on or what was in the carriage if the curtains were pulled. And so that's the east block, but you can see that it has been raised because, let me show you here.
What is that?
That is a window. You see the bars?
Yeah. So they're going to say that is to keep people from busting in, I guess.
Yeah.
But it could also work the other way around.
Why would you build can you see it now?
Yeah. Oh yeah, we can see it.
Okay, why would you build an archway and a window? Obviously, they did put in the 9 feet of fill because that's a ridiculous place to put a window.
Right.
And you can see bars.
And that's the sidewalk that's in the foreground?
No, that's a grate.
But I mean, it's ground level?
Yeah, that's ground level.
That's ground level. So where does that go, that window?
Exactly. I think it used to be above ground.
Yeah, so show the giant hole.
Okay. Yeah, there's a pit in front of the center block, and it's about 140 feet deep. This pit is, this picture was taken 2 years ago, and it's deeper since then. And nobody knows why it's there. Look at that.
Unbelievable. I mean, look at those giant cranes and stuff down there.
And they've actually been blasting, as you can see, it's into the bedrock. And on the left of the picture, you see the pipes?
Yeah, they're saying
behind those pipes are permanent buildings. There's even a sidewalk there, and the whole thing is behind a wall, so you can't see it from the street. None of this you can see from the street, and I don't think it's on Google Earth either. And if you ask the workers why they're doing it, they'll say, oh, it's for an underground parking garage.
How goes it, man?
Really? Across the street from this building is a whole empty city lot, like a whole yard of it, and they could have easily put up a building there if they wanted to. But this has been 4 years that they've been doing it and blasting into the bedrock. And at the end of the pit, on the surface, there is a power building, and even though it's a couple of 100 feet above the river, somehow they've got plans of bringing water and treating it. I think they're building some kind of getaway bunker, and that pit is actually. And the other building on the left is the West Block. And I was told that building is much older than the other two. And that it could be, look at the, see the spires?
Yeah.
They're not like the other buildings.
Yeah. Yeah, these spires and roofs and things, I think, are more important than we think they are. Also, this reminds me of what was happening, though, with the White House. And could it be that they are doing some kind of excavation?
But look at that pit.
Because I'm thinking that some of these people would have already escaped through maybe portals and other things, but also that the White House pretty.
Look at the size of the cranes in the pit. This picture was taken probably 3 years ago.
But I'm also thinking they probably, a lot of them, remember when they were all leaving, it was like, I don't know whether it was 2017 or 2018, there was a mass exodus of corporation executives and government officials, and they kept it on the QT. So I'm thinking that the ones that got away, if they got away, would have had to have done it way earlier than this.
As you can see, there's when this picture was taken, there's a wall there, and that's gone now.
I'm not saying that it's not possible, though, that they're building this to get away. But yeah, I mean, but
see, now they've got it fenced off, and now today you can't even see this much.
Yeah, I don't even want to think about what might be under there. Because I think they build buildings like this over.
Well, we're breaking up again, folks.
This and that, the other, they'd be talking about it in some way, shape, or form. But they're not. They're not even mentioning this stuff. And of course, the kids coming out of the White House, or if they were little, look how God, it looks like one of those cartoons. And look at the flowers for eyes.
It's demented.
Yeah.
That's our government building, our parliament.
When was it built?
Well, we were told it burned down in over 100 years ago, and then they rebuilt it. But we don't know for sure. We have no way of knowing.
Yeah, Wikipedia's not saying anything either.
Really, eh?
But I was going back to the Chucky doll. Is that a place for children to play and stuff?
Yes, it is a place for... I got to show you this. This is just down the street from the Parliament buildings.
Now, wait a minute. Can we go back a minute? Because is this a park or something that is... And the Chucky doll, the guy who designed the Chucky doll designed the park. Are there little gargoyles like that look like Chucky in the park?
No. Look at this. This is down the street from Parliament. It's like a 5-minute walk. That is our National Gallery. Here it comes.
Well, that's what they say, all the super soldiers, and they all say that there are these things, and they are on Mars. And remember that David Bowie song?
Fighters from Mars.
Yeah.
Well, look what's in front of our National Gallery.
Nice. It gives you an idea.
See the person at the bottom? Look how big it is.
It gives you an idea if these things are real, what it would look like if it was coming towards you.
Well, you see, look how big it is compared to the people at the bottom pod on a giant spider to go to the National Gallery.
Yeah, they think that's beautiful, though.
Yeah. Isn't that wild?
It's crazy.
Sec.
Oh, take your time. Yeah, I was going to wonder if that somehow it curses the children, to be in there.
Oh yeah, and they want the kids to play on it. Here we go.
Like maybe maybe they get attachments and stuff like that from.
And while we're at it, here, this is the Prime Minister's office building. So Trudeau's office is on the 3rd floor of this building, and during the convoy, our famous convoy was parked on this street and parked right in front of this building. And I was one of the organizers, and I was offered some porta potties for free. And I had people set them up for the convoy, and I insisted that there be one at his door. So right there at the top of the steps, we had a porta potty at the Trudeau's office building.
I want to explain that Norm and I are doing throwback photos this video, and we probably will do it periodically. But, Norm, thanks so much for doing this, our show, Chaos Culture, and How Did We Get There? Mind Control.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Shit. Well, let's see what else we got lined up, shall we? Aliens, the Cabal. I got your decade. Trump's Zionist ball and chain. Yes, that sounds good.
Real estate in New York and New Jersey is deeply entrenched in organized crime and corrupt pay-to-play governments. Bribery and blackmail are just a normal part of state contracting. There exists a concentration of Zionist ideologues profiting from the gambit and using their wealth to assist a foreign government with its political aims. Crooks are using the state to enrich themselves and then using this wealth to further the interests of the Israeli regime and its grip over American money, media, and military power. President Trump himself and his extended family, with Charles and Jared Kushner in particular, are serving the financial and ideological aims of the Israeli state. Controlling property predicates other revenue streams for criminality. And these organized crime connections float all the way back to the Robert Kennedy assassination. In Israel, they say God granted them land. Well, God is not a real estate agent. Real estate agents involved in state contracting and organized crime, however, do act like the devil. The Democrats are out chasing Russian ghosts instead of nailing down these concrete criminal connections, because they can't do otherwise, since they are involved in the very same syndicates and the very same activities. using government to enrich itself and its riches to bribe government officials. A den of criminal real estate moguls comprised a regional oligopoly. This cabal then empowers a federal lobby on behalf of a foreign state. AIPAC depends on these donors for the bulk of its power. Also under its wing is a who's who of organized crime. Without vast corporate welfare, it could not continue. Eric Trump reports that his father's decision to bomb a Syrian airbase was influenced by his sister Ivanka's reaction to the horrible gas attack. Either Ivanka fell for the atrocity propaganda that uniformly blamed Assad without motive or evidence while also ignoring precedent, because we've heard these lies before, or she's part of it. I don't recall her being heartbroken for the dead Palestinian children or Iraqis, or the thousands starving in Yemen. Of course, none of that was on the White Helmet's film rolls, and it would never see airtime on the Zionist mass media. The fact that she's married to one of the Holocaust builders' clans, to Jared Kushner no less, the son of a convicted felon who just got out of jail in 2006, may mean that there is an ideological dog in this fight. The Israelis had recently tried to penetrate into Palmyra in mid-March of 2017, and they were repelled by the very same airbase that Trump later attacked with cruise missiles. After burning bridges in New Jersey, the Kushners bought 666 Fifth Avenue in New York for $1.8 billion, the highest price paid for an individual building at the time. It was a very unconventional price for such a short building. The 666 at the top has been replaced with the Citigroup logo. In other words, a synonym. Citigroup was the largest recipient of bailouts from the 2008 housing bubble crash. Their corruption fits perfectly with the Kushner clan. So who or what are the Holocaust builders? How did the Kushner clan burn bridges in New Jersey? And why did Jared's billionaire father, Charles, the dawn of the Holocaust builders, end up in federal prison? What's their relationship with the state of Israel? First, you need to know a bit about New Jersey and organized crime. The most successful mobsters don't avoid the law, they work with the law. God is not a real estate agent, but the devil is. No matter what the planned crimes are, narcotics, prostitution, gambling, or something bigger, the first order of business is controlling property. As researcher and writer Douglas Valentine said of the CIA in regards to Vietnam and Ukraine, the first move they make is real estate. They have to have a base of operations.
Well, the first thing they always do is buy a lot of property. And they do this clandestinely, so that they have places where they have safe houses, they have places to set up organizations later on. It's always best for them to buy real estate during times of crisis.
With more than 600 school districts and 566 municipalities, and each one of these has to hire an accountant, a lawyer, an administrator, and the positions end up being divvied out as rewards for donations. Alan Marcus, the founder of the political consulting company The Marcus Group, told The New Yorker, "In New Jersey, You contribute money not for access, but results. Anybody who doesn't admit that is lying. Speaking of the governor of 2002, Jim McGreevey, he said, "From day one of the McGreevey office, everything became a fix again. You couldn't discuss a policy issue with them. They were only interested in who was the contributor and who they had to take care of." The mobster John Gotti brought too much attention to himself, and so did Jared Kushner's father, Charles Kushner. It's not often that a billionaire goes to jail, but it does happen. If you want to be the king of Gotham, you have to control the Port Authority. The Port Authority Board is appointed by New York and New Jersey governors. Since the chairman of the board is appointed by the New Jersey governor, as well as commissioners, the way in is by gaining influence over the governor of New Jersey. Before moving forward, I want to stress a point. That members of a group engage in ethnic nepotism or hold supremacist beliefs obviously does not mean everyone else belonging to that group shares in their belief or behavior. Likewise, opposing such nepotism is not prejudice, it's just calling a spade a spade. It's not anti-white, for example, to oppose white supremacy, and it's not anti-Semitic to oppose Zionism. But again and again, Jewish supremacists will use this canard of anti-Semitism to defend what is in actuality their own prejudiced behaviors.
Often when there is dissent expressed in the United States against policies of the Israeli government, people here are called anti-Semitic. What is your response to that as an Israeli Jew?
Well, it's a trick. We always use it. When from Europe somebody is criticizing Israel, then we bring up the Holocaust. When in this country people are criticizing Israel, then they are anti-Semitic. And the organization is strong and has a lot of money, and the ties between Israel and the American Jewish establishment are very strong, and they are strong in this country. As you know, they have power, which it's okay, they are talented people, and they have power, money, and media, and other things. And their attitude is Israel, my country, right or wrong, the identification. And they are not ready to hear criticism. And it's very easy to blame people who criticize certain acts of the Israeli government as anti-Semitic, and to bring up the Holocaust and the suffering of the Jewish people. And that justify everything we do to the Palestinians.
The Port Authority of New Jersey and New York is Zionist occupied. That is just a fact. At the time of the September 11th attacks, the Port Authority chairman was Louis Eisenberg. Eisenberg authorized the World Trade Center lease transfer to Larry Silverstein and Frank Lowry. He was a partner at Goldman Sachs. He has been a member of the Planning Board for United Jewish Appeal and the United Jewish Federation. His senior advisor at the Port Authority was Michael Glassner, the Southwest Regional Political Director for AIPAC. One of the long-standing and current commissioners who was appointed by McGreevey is David Steiner, the former president of AIPAC, the most powerful lobby in the United States. David Steiner got himself into a bit of trouble. In a phone conversation, he was recorded saying, "I got, besides the $3 billion, they're looking for Jewish votes, and I tell them whatever he wants to hear. Besides the $10 billion in loan guarantees, which is a fabulous thing, $3 billion in foreign and military aid, I got almost $1 billion in other goodies that people don't even know about." He goes on to brag how much leverage he has and insiders he has, which are key in shaping U.S. foreign policy. Another commissioner who actually had a brand new job title and position that was created out of thin air and was given a $150,000 salary, appointed by Chris Christie, is David Wildstein. Behind Christie's back, he set up a website called politickernj.com, which got financial support from Jared Kushner, who also owns the New York Observer newspaper, and who is the son of Charles Kushner. Conspiracy over bridge in Christie. But according to Jared Kushner's own emails with Wildstein, it was a, quote, badass move and meant to derail Christie. Chris Christie, of course, would be the man who would prosecute Jared Kushner's father, Charles.
Governor McGreevy's top political fundraiser was arrested today on obstruction of justice and related federal charges. New Jersey-based developer Charles Kushner is charged with hiring a prostitute to blackmail 2 witnesses in a federal investigation where he is a target. State House correspondent Jim Hooker has the story.
Kushner, a major Democratic campaign contributor and political player who'd served briefly on the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey and was once nominated by Governor McGreevy to head the authority's board, sat in handcuffs before a U.S. magistrate in federal court in Newark. He's charged with attempting to intimidate witnesses in a separate probe by the U.S. Attorney's Office involving his real estate holdings and federal campaign contributions.
Mr. Kushner engaged in a conspiracy with co-conspirators to hire prostitutes to entice witnesses who were cooperating with the federal investigation into engaging in sex acts with those prostitutes and to have those sex acts then videotaped.
After the taping, according to the complaint, Kushner then arranged to have the tape and still pictures taken from it sent to the cooperating witness's wife. Attempts to catch another witness on videotape with the prostitute failed when the witness didn't go with the woman, who authorities say Kushner personally recruited from New York City after 2 accomplices failed to find one. He paid $37,000 to the call girl and the accomplices.
The Port Authority seems to have a revolving door with Goldman Sachs, and its commissioners are always getting into legal trouble or hatching financial schemes. New Jersey and New York governors who appoint the PA brass are often in the same boat. So it shouldn't be shocking that the people they appoint are shady. Take New Jersey Governor Jim Corzine, for example. He was the CEO of Goldman Sachs and then MF Global, which he ran into bankruptcy after using customer funds to pay creditors for silly bets he made on European sovereign debt. Corzine was a business partner of the now convicted felon Charles Kushner in an offer to buy the New Jersey Nets basketball team. The governor said no when they wanted to use the state to help offset the cost for purchasing the team. No was not an answer that Charles Kushner was used to, especially from McGreevy, who he had already given $1.5 million. And as it turns out, not only did Kushner use the carrot, he also carried the stick. If bribes failed, there was always blackmail. Kushner's favorite tactic was the honey trap. What he did could be a Hollywood movie if Hollywood was interested, or at least an episode of Trailer Park Boys. Governor McGreevy had a weakness. He was a closet homosexual. On a trip to Israel, McGreevy met his lover, Golan Spelt. At the time, Jim was a mayor with aspirations to become governor. Spelt moved to America, to New Jersey, and his work visa was sponsored by none other than Charles Kushner. For McGreevy, who would later be blackmailed by the Israeli national, and outed, this relationship with Spelt turned out to be a real pain in the butt. Was Kushner pulling the strings? Why else did Spelt demand that any settlement include a charter for the Touro College Medical School? McGreevy had set up his lover, a foreign national with a six-figure salary, by appointing him to be the head of Homeland Security just a month after becoming governor. He also appointed a new chairman for the Port Authority, none other than Charles Kushner. Remember that this was in 2002, and just months prior was the horrible September 11th terrorist attacks. The World Trade Centers were physically gone, and the Port Authority would decide what would replace them. The terrorist attack greatly benefited New Jersey, and Kushner in particular. Ask yourself, since all those offices were destroyed, where did all of those businesses go? Well, mostly to New Jersey waterfront. New Jersey got 15,400 new jobs, and Kushner so happened to construct 5 million square feet of office space. And the first to move was Goldman Sachs. Imagine my lack of shock. I'll circle back to 9/11 in a bit because there's a lot here to go over. Moving companies, the Jewish agency, loans, real estate. Put it this way, that Jared Kushner's New York Observer was the first paper in America to report the bogus lies about anthrax post 9/11, which lied about an Iraq al-Qaeda connection and had notes that read "Death to America, Death to Israel," should not come as a shock. The Kushners financed settlements in Israel. There was an al-Qaeda connection, all right, but it wasn't Iraq. And yeah, there were Middle Easterners celebrating the attack, but they weren't Muslim, and they weren't Arab. There was a New Jersey senator calling for an independent inquiry into 9/11, Robert Torricelli. He stated, President Bush has suggested that we hold private hearings regarding the 9/11 tragedy. This is not how we conduct the government. Our accountability is to the people of our country. Yet the administration claims that such hearings would be a distraction from the war on terrorism. That is not our history or how we conduct our government. Accountability is at the core of any representative government. This nation needs an independent board of inquiry to determine the events of September 11th. An investigation must be conducted by an independent board of inquiry to determine what problems need to be addressed in U.S. agencies responsible for intelligence. Simply leaving this inquiry to the White House and Senate Intelligence Committees would not provide the impartial investigation needed. Those committees have had continuing oversight for the very intelligence agencies they would be investigating. Thus, they would not provide the fresh perspective an independent board would bring to the issue. After doing that, the Kushner New York Observer and the always loyal neocon mouthpiece, the New York Times, began trashing the senator. Was he involved in Alan G. Havesi's pension scandal? Yeah, he was. After all, he's a Jersey politician. All of them have skeletons. That's why they can be leveraged, and that's why they get financed to run for office in the first place. Here's something interesting. Jamie Foxx, no relation to the actor, served as the chief of staff for both Torricelli and Jim McGreevy. After things went sour between Leahy and Randy, and with Charles Kushner going to jail in Alabama, Spelt got a job at a PR firm, MWW, which was started by the former New Jersey governor, Jim, the staff, Gary Taffet, and his chief of counsel, Paul Livingston, both got federally investigated for selling billboards on government land, and another McGreevy fundraiser was extorting contributions in exchange for the government buying land at a better price. That long indictment kept mentioning a But despite his mountains of corruption, as well as everyone around him, McGreevy walked away heroically for having the courage to admit that he was a gay American. Hey, it's America. Minority cards are strong. Forget about the millions of dollars he squandered. Forget about him hiring a foreign national for the Homeland Security, which oversaw New Jersey's nuclear facilities. Forget that while his wife was in the hospital having bed rest after having labor, that he was drinking Jaeger and having an affair in her house, in her bed, with his aide. Nope, he walked away like a boss. Kushner didn't fare as well. He got nailed for a number of charges: false tax returns, false campaign finance reports, and witness tampering.
What is the answer to the question of why a guy as savvy as Jim McGreevy meets a guy in another country for 45 minutes and brings him over here and hands over this sensitive part of his campaign to him? It doesn't make sense.
David Twersky is at the American Jewish Congress in New York now. When he was editor of the Jewish News, he got to know Golan Spelt and already knew McGreevy, and was not alone in his suspicion. State troopers, upset about the governor's choice of Joseph Santiago as superintendent, were trying to gather proof of a relationship between the governor and his young aide.
I warned him to beware of the fact that state police were probably driving around looking for him at night. He said he was aware of that, but that there was nothing to find because, in fact, he was not gay and not having a sexual relationship with the governor.
Twersky wrote an editorial urging the press and public to lay off Spelt. McGreevy thanked him for it. But then a newspaper article described the governor and Spelt doing a walkthrough together at Spelt's new condo in West Windsor. And Twersky says Charles Kushner took the two of them to New York PR man Howard Rubenstein.
Kushner, the dapper Don of the Holocaust builders, nicknamed after the attention-seeking, reckless John Gotti, the most idiotic mob boss to ever grace New York, built off an old developer's trick to get around campaign finance laws. In the New Jersey and New York City real estate world, developers do a lot of dirty business. So each time they start a new project, they create a new company with a new name for liability purposes. This way, when they work with the mob or simply cheat with some scam, the ordeal is separated from the main businesses. Kushner made a lot of projects, and thus a lot of companies, over 100 in fact. On behalf of these partnerships, he made political contributions in other people's names without even telling them. This allowed Kushner to give a lot of money and gain a lot of influence over the likes of people like Bill Bradley, John greed rats, is that you can always rely on them to turn on each other. Kushner ran into trouble with him money. The lawsuit did what no criminal wants.
Let me just shut it up. Yeah, so that was some of the American stuff that's happening overseas. Little mouse doing something strange. So that's pretty much it. I might chuck a bit of music on if I can get it to work. Yeah, who's that bloke? Who's that bloke, you might wonder? I saw a guy at this guy at Lazot's. Oh yeah. Australian bloke. Oh. Touch it.
Like Pines?
We don't have a 5 Pines.
What's the beer that you gave her before?
6 Street.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was live.
Thank you.
My voice has got right on the edge now. So I need you guys to sing this bit with me. In fact, for me. You right? Sing I'm so drunk and I won't go.
Wasn't that? That was fantastic. That was Richard Clapton live at Lizottes back at last year sometime. Today's post was brought to you by whoever controls the weather. I was supposed to play bowls today, so, and bowls didn't happen because it's raining. It rains sometime, doesn't it? In the meantime, folks, till I see you on the next venture into this, be good to each other. And, I guess, ta-ra.